We're doing telemetry during the day. We normally check our traps at night, and we have a bird who's hatched a brood about 40 days ago or so, and I tracked her and she was right down around this area over here. So I came and checked the trap, and apparently 2 of her chicks are in here. So we'll go ahead and pull them out. Since it's during the day, they normally get a little crazier when you come up to them. Typically we work our birds up at night at the trap site and release them right there, weather dependent. So if it's raining, we'll pull birds out of the traps, take them back to our field house and work them up there. Or if it's going to be really cold nights, we'll do the same. So every time I come to a trap, if I have birds in it, I'll plug the funnel. This is going to prevent them from getting out. And we record pretty basic data on these birds. So things like the date. This is going to be capture information for us for what areas we capture birds, and when we capture them, how many, and then if we recapture them at later dates and later locations. So either of these are recaptures. They're both juveniles, and they are far too young for us to determine the sex of them. So this is sulfur powder. It's good if the birds bust their head up a little bit. It's anti-coagulant, and also will kind of help them heal up and not get infections on those busted heads if it happens. Scale. We use fast setting super glue as well as an accelerator, this Instaset, to secure the knots for our radios. So we'll go ahead and work up the first bird, and each bird is banded with a unique identifier leg band. This has our study site on it, Goose Pond Fish and Wildlife Area, as well as a phone number to contact, and then the unique ID for the specific bird. So 22490 will be this first chick. And we'll go ahead and weigh the bird. This bird weighs 94 grams. We have 2 radios which we put out. And during the fall, when we're trapping here at Goose Pond, we're catching a lot of young birds, such as these. So we actually have a smaller transmitter which can be fitted to birds which weigh 84 grams or greater, and those are typically our really young birds, and these are the smaller units here. The battery life on them is about 6 months, whereas the other units, a bit larger, can be fit to adult birds or larger juveniles which weigh a minimum of 124 grams. So 84 is our minimum weight. That bird weighed 94, so it's good to get a radio. And with some of these units, I shorten up the rubber housing here. That way we can get a much tighter fit. It's really useful for when you get these smaller birds that are going to have fairly small heads. And to do that, you can use an X-Acto knife, or I use this multi-tool scissors, pretty dull scissors. You just want to be sure not to cut into the actual string and just the rubber housing itself. So we'll pull this first bird out of the bag, and it's important that whenever you're pulling them out that you have a good hold on them. Typically, when folks are learning this, the most common times they lose birds is pulling them out of the trap or pulling them out of a bag when they don't have a good hold. You basically when you're holding a quail, you want to have their thighs pressed down. And I'm not holding this bird very tight, and it's really small, so my hand's kind of engulfing the bird. But all a quail's power are in these legs. So if they feel like they can get their legs on something solid and push off, they're going to try to do that. So when you take their legs away, I've got the band ready. I go up over the leg and then turn it. This way the bird cannot kick out before I crimp it. So it's now banded. And I'm just going to get a general idea of how small this radio needs to be on this bird's head. And you want it to be pretty dang tight. Now these birds will grow like weeds at this point in their life, a couple grams a day. But you still want to be sure that you have a snug fit on this radio. That way it's not likely the bird will drop the radio or that the bird will get hung on vegetation. So back into the bag. And I've already got one knot in there. I'm just going to pull another one through. And that should be a good spot. I'll take this glue and I'll put it all the way around the knot. It's going to prevent this knot from ever coming undone. And this stuff holds up really well. Put the accelerator on it. And I always check this glue before I put it on the bird to make sure that it's going to be hardened. And you'll end up with some super glue on your fingers, but it's not a big deal. And I try to wipe this Instaset, this accelerator, off of the radio before fitting it to the bird, just so it doesn't get on the bird's eyes. Cut the string. I'll check it to make sure this is a working radio. We're good there. Now if this ends up being a bit too tight, I can work this rubber collar. They're pretty tough, and try to stretch it out a bit, or try to break this glue right here on this knot to make this move a little more freely. So back out of the bag, I find the bird's head with my index finger, middle finger, and find its thighs with my pinky and thumb. To open the bag, I pull it against my wrist so I'm not pulling into the bird, and slip the bird right out. And I'll just readjust my hold. Okay, so doing this, you want to support the back of the bird's head and just go nice and easy, and it should be pretty snug. And that was a really tight fitting radio. And I always come up here on the nape and pull this collar down and pull up on the nape just to kind of reset that collar on them. And these birds are tiny, so this isn't the best example, but you want to come here and just start working these feathers out from under the collar. And I start on one side and work my way to the next, to this side now, and I'm holding this collar down, and this is allowing me to pull more of these feathers out. And it's kind of a pull and twist motion. And sometimes it's going to take you more than a couple turns or pulls to even get one group of feathers out. So some of those are taking me 2 to 3 times. And I'll come and do it on the breast, and really the breast is just a lot of feel. I'm not seeing what feathers I'm grabbing, I'm doing this all by feel. And these young birds don't really have a lot to give. Okay, so I'll do one side and then I'll come back and work on that initial side again. and get some of those feathers out. And then I'll come back to this right side, or sorry, this left side, and get more out. And then back on the breast. And then I'll give the nape one more pull to reset that. And now you can see that this bird's collar, or the radio, is well concealed. The last thing we want to do with these birds, these juveniles, is confirm, we know this, but juvenile birds, so these buff tips on the primary coverts you see here, very distinguishable. An adult is going to be basically full gray. Okay, and then the molt feather. And the molt feather we can get at roughly how many days old this bird is. So we'll start on our primaries, and we start with the outermost primary, which is 10, and then we work our way down. So they're going to have 10 primary feathers. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and we're missing quite a few on this bird. And this is a better example here. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. And here's one. And there's going to be another one coming in right there. So we're concerned with the most recent molt feather. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. And this I would call a 0. It really hasn't come in yet. So we normally go 0, a quarter, a half, 3/4, or all the way in. So this molt feather is 4 at 0. And this bird's all good. So I'm just going to let it scamper off in the cover